Hello to everyone. Tajahao, magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. This is the DuterteNomics Forum in China. And today we hope to give to you the key elements, the key tenets of the President's economic program for the Philippines over the next 6 years, and especially the major infrastructure projects totaling about $160 billion of spending from now until 2022. To welcome everyone, may I call on the presidential spokesperson, Ernesto Abella.
Greetings. On behalf of the Philippine delegation to the People's Republic of China, it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to this open forum on DuterteNomics. DuterteNomics is the brand we've given to the President's philosophy and strategy for economic governance. It's a strategy that's driven by our dream of building a nationwide infrastructure network that will connect all of our 7,000 islands into one cohesive and dynamic whole into Asia's newest tiger economy. Beyond our national ambitions, there are also profound implications in DuterteNomics for the Pan-Asian transportation network contemplated by the One Belt, One Road initiative. First, the lengthy sea route that seeks to connect the North Asian coastline to the islands of Southeast Asia will benefit from a fully developed maritime hub in the Philippines located in the former U.S. naval base in Subic. This is where we already have our biggest shipyards. As one of the world's 4 largest shipbuilders, it is also where we plan to build a cargo railway that will connect Subic to the air and land transportation hub at Clark. From Clark, we will provide road and rail access to the seaport of Manila that bypasses the crowded streets of the capital city. The other way we will extend the connectivity of One Belt, One Road is at the other end of our country, to the south. The other week, President Duterte and President Widodo of Indonesia inaugurated a weekly roll-on, roll-off ferry service between the Philippine cities of Davao and General Santos and the Indonesian city of Bitung. With this new service, people and commodities being transported from Indochina down to Indonesia may be carried by overnight ferry to Mindanao, the President's home region. From there, they can travel to the rest of the country through the new and improved land, sea, and air networks that we will build. This project will also strengthen the sub-region of BIMP Yaga, an important terminating point for One Belt, One Road. It will improve the capacity of the 4 member countries to participate in trade and investment with the rest of the region. We in the Philippines welcome One Belt, One Road as the way to realize our long-standing dream of Pan-Asian connectivity. The infrastructure we will build under DuterteNomics is our own small contribution to realizing that dream. Thank you, good morning, and mabuhay.
Good morning. Our next speaker is the Secretary of Finance, Secretary Carlos G. Dominguez III. He served as Secretary of the Environment and Natural Resources and Agriculture under President Corazon Aquino, and as President of leading Philippine corporations such as Philippine Airlines, the Philippine Associated Smelting and Refining Corporation, or PASARCO, and the former BPI Agricultural Bank. He holds an MBA degree from Ateneo de Manila University and attended the Executive Management Program at Stanford University. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Dominguez.
Good morning, everybody. fellow workers in government, members of the media, representatives of the government of China, ladies and gentlemen. This forum seeks to provide a comprehensive overview of the economic program of the Duterte administration. This program needs wider public discussion and a broader base of support. The 10-point program of the Duterte administration takes into account the large trends defining our economic opportunities at the moment. These economic opportunities bear real fruit only if we undertake audacious policymaking. On one hand, the Philippine economy enjoys what might be called a Cinderella moment. It took us many years to rebuild both the debt crisis of the mid-80s and the Asian financial crisis of the late 90s. These years required us to undertake austerity measures. These measures, in turn, led us to underinvest in infrastructure. During that difficult period, our neighbors in the region spent about twice what we did on modernizing their infrastructure. We have completed our fiscal consolidation. Our credit ratings attest to this. The debt burden is no longer a drag on our economic growth. We can now reshape our economic development so that it is investment-led. This, in turn, will open the door to a truly inclusive economy. An investment-led growth pattern creates jobs and opens more economic opportunities for our people. We are now actively seeking investments, not only to rebuild our depleted manufacturing sector, but also to capitalize our agriculture and make it more efficient. On the other hand, the Philippines now looks forward to what has been called a demographic sweet spot. As the population of some of the more mature economies in Asia begin to age, we look forward to the entry of millions of young Filipinos into the workforce. We must invest in them and make them globally competitive. We must prepare the economy to provide meaningful jobs for them, or else risk building an alienated and discontented generation. The demographic sweet spot is both a challenge and opportunity. It is a test of our ability to govern and chart our nation's future. Seizing the opportunities offered by this demographic advantage requires reshaping our country's economic development beginning at this time. We must build a truly inclusive economy. To do so, our economy should be investment-led, creating new jobs and opening opportunities for all. In the decades when we neglected our infra while our neighbors rapidly built up theirs, we lost out on competitiveness. For an archipelagic country, poor infrastructure is debilitating. It raises the costs of transporting goods between islands. That is the reason our food price regime is very high. Our congested roads and ports discourage investors who need just-in-time deliveries. Our high power costs and unstable supply discouraged investments in manufacturing. If we examine all the reasons why the Philippines fell behind other economies of this dynamic region, it has much to do with poor infrastructure. It is here where we should begin rebuilding our competitiveness. There are a number of reasons as well. Our personal and income tax rates are higher than most of the tax rates in the region. We cannot expect companies to set up shop here if we tax them more than our neighbors. Realigning our income tax rates is a measure intended not only to increase disposable income of our workers, but also to raise our economy's competitiveness. Our program for infrastructure build-up will entail trillions of pesos in economic investments. We need to undertake these investments for the sake of the next generation of Filipinos, or else they will remain in the same poverty trap we found ourselves in. Later in today's program, we will outline the specific infra projects in the pipeline. They will be presented by the Department of Transportation, the Department of Public Works, and the BCDA. Realigning tax rates, however, will bring down revenues even as we improve administration and broaden our tax base. This means we have to introduce new measures that will not only compensate for the lower tax rate, but also fund the massive infra program that commences now. The comprehensive tax reform package, therefore, is the key link in the grand effort to break out of the cycle of low growth and build a dynamic and inclusive economy for our people. The tax reform package will support investments in our human capital, upgrading the educational system, and providing quality health care. It is a proactive and pro-poor measure that supports the expansionary fiscal posture of our present government. In a word, the comprehensive tax reform package is an indispensable component of the Duterte administration's economic strategy. This is an audacious strategy that seeks to lift our country to upper middle income status by 2022 and high income status by 2040. We do not intend to fail in meeting the challenges at this time. We may no longer enjoy the happy conjuncture of low interest rates, market liquidity, a benign oil price regime, and the strong support of countries like China, an investment-grade credit rating, and a young and vigorous labor force. This is the time to move decisively. Fortunately, we have a leader capable of much audacity. We have a leader of vision and intense love of country. All the favorable factors are present. It is time now for the breakout of the Philippines into the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Dominguez, for providing us with the governance, macroeconomic, and development context for DuterteNomics. May I now call your attention to the video. We have a presentation of the key tenets that make up the President's Economic and Development Program, DuterteNomics.
The Philippines, Asia's new tiger. For decades, our neighbors have zoomed ahead of us, building on industrial and infrastructure investments. Now, it's our turn. Last year, our economy grew 6.9%, faster than every major East Asian economy. This year and next, the IMF expects us to be the fastest growing economy in the region. After 2 decades of uninterrupted growth since the 1997 Asian crisis, we are realizing our immense potential at the center of the world's most dynamic region with our abundant natural and human resources. According to the United Nations, our young population is now in a demographic sweet spot since 2015. The same abundance of work-age citizens that propelled growth in China and other Asian dynamos. Now, under President Rodrigo Duterte, we are accelerating the formula of industrial and infrastructure development, driving the East Asian miracle. Already, manufacturing and investment have surged since 2010. fueled by our resolute fiscal reforms of the past decade. Now, under DuterteNomics, the President's development agenda, we have embarked on an ambitious 6-year national development program to achieve economic growth of 7 to 8% every year up to 2022, to expand infrastructure spending from 2.5% of GDP in decades past to 5% this year and 7.4% by 2022, and to attain high middle income status and eliminate poverty in 1 generation. The first order of business is to level up our infrastructure using our growing budget resources and overseas development assistance, and in partnership with you, the global investor. As an archipelago, the Philippines needs lots of infrastructure to power our growth and connect our island economies to major domestic and international markets. Over the coming 6 years, we will spend more than $160 billion in government and overseas development funds. That's not yet counting many billions more from the private sector in PPP projects and especially in power generation, which by law is totally in the hands of business. 2/3 of our infrastructure outlays will be for transportation. We will also spend heavily on education and social services to build up our human capital. These investments will boost growth and productivity in vast areas and sectors now lacking power, water, roads, ports, airports, telecoms, education, and social services. A wide range of infrastructure projects awaits development partners, contractors, and investors. They include expressways linking industrial zones around Metro Manila to the northern and southern reaches of Luzon Island. Total budget, nearly $1.2 billion. Major highways for Cebu and Negros Islands, costing a total of $460 million. Airport development in Central Luzon, Bohol, Palawan, and Mindanao, costing $1.24 billion. The Mega Manila Subway Project and bus rapid transit lines with a combined outlay of $5.4 billion. The $4.3 billion Clark City project in the former U.S. Air Base, including a new national government center, a world-class sports complex, an international food market, and mixed-use real estate. Railways for passenger transit from North to South Luzon, $2.1 billion, and passenger and freight transit across Mindanao, $630 million, Phase 1. These are among many mammoth undertakings with ample opportunities for public-private partnerships. The government takes the lead in planning, building, and financing projects, assuming front-end risks while keen to privatize when business is ready to take over. This is the golden age of Philippine infrastructure under DuterteNomics. The development agenda of the Duterte administration. The World Economic Forum has predicted that the Philippines can become one of the 30 most powerful economies in the world in just 13 years. Be a part of this success story in Asia's dynamic new economic tiger, the Republic of the Philippines.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ernesto M. Pernia is the Secretary of the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA. He is a Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of the Philippines. He was lead economist at the Asian Development Bank, where he authored the 7-volume study that became the blueprint for BIMP-IAGA Regional Cooperation. He obtained his PhD from the University of California in Berkeley and was the first awardee as Outstanding Young Scientist in Economics and Social Sciences from the National Academy of Science and Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Pernia.
Good morning, everyone. My co-public servants in the Philippines, media representatives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We have 7 key messages regarding the Philippine economy. Number 1, the Philippine economic growth has been on a sharp uptrend consistently over the past 3.5 decades, making the economy among the fastest rising economy not only in Asia, but in the world. The Philippine economy has undergone structural transformation, increasingly driven by investment in lieu of consumption and industry in lieu of the service sector. Note that both are typically highly job-generating. Total factor productivity, meaning capital and labor combined with technology, has been rising significantly, surpassing those of the traditionally dynamic Asian economies. While the Philippine macroeconomy appears robust, inequality across the regions and across households remains highly skewed, and chronic poverty persists. Message number 5. Thus, the thrust of the Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022 is regional and rural development and decongesting the mega-urban industrial region centered around Metro Manila. Most of the infrastructure projects under the government's Build program are intended to benefit the lagging regions, either intra-regionally or via interregional connectivity. 7th message. The infrastructure program will create mass unemployment, revitalize the regions, and markedly reduce inequality and poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, DuterteNomics, the hallmark of DuterteNomics is regional and rural development that will reduce inequality and poverty across the regions. DuterteNomics is also about infrastructure projects that will be processed swiftly, implemented on schedule, and delivered on time to our people who have long aspired for higher living standards. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Benjamin E. Diokno is the Secretary of Budget and Management, his 3rd tour of duty in this position. He is a Professor Emeritus at the University of the Philippines. He served as Fiscal Advisor to the Philippine Senate, Chairman and CEO of the Philippine National Oil Company, and Chairman of the Local Water Utilities Administration. He earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in public administration and a master's degree in economics from the University of the Philippines, his MA in political economy from Johns Hopkins University, and a PhD in economics from Syracuse University. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Diokno.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Philippine Department of Budget and Management, I'd like to discuss today the financing strategy of the Duterte government, which will intend to make DuterteNomics a reality. Under the previous administration, our government was able to complete an average of only 1 project per year. This is far too slow and unacceptable. Thus, we have decided to shift to what we call new hybrid PPP model. Under this model, the national government will be responsible for planning, financing, and building projects, of course, through competitive bidding. We can do this because of our sound macroeconomic fundamentals, such as ample liquidity, large fiscal space, greater borrowing capacity from our investment grade ratings, and a global environment of low inflation and interest rates. By taking the startup responsibilities government will effectively de-risk projects upfront. This allows the private sector subsequently to provide operations and maintenance or to acquire the project after they have been seasoned. In order to finance our projects, government will borrow as much as it has to, mostly in our local currency and credit markets. We have targeted a deficit of up to 3% per year, 3% of GDP every year from 2017 to 2022. Nonetheless, because of our faster GDP growth, we expect to outgrow our debt. We expect our debt to GDP ratio to decrease from 45% in 2015 to 35% by 2022, when President Duterte leaves office. This level of debt is not only manageable, it is the envy of many developed and developing countries. We welcome you. We welcome the support rather of our friends abroad through investments, technology, and concessional as well as commercial credit. We invite you to participate in our journey for a better, safer, fairer, richer, and more beautiful Philippines. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you, Secretary Diokno. We have heard Secretary Pernia, the Economic Planning Secretary, explain the Philippine Development Plan highlights that presents the major thrust to create jobs and uplift our people from poverty. We have also heard the fiscal program that will support the infrastructure ambitions of DuterteNomics. Now we will have the panel discussion on those infrastructure projects. And to introduce our speakers at the panel discussion, let me introduce the Secretary of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, Secretary Martin Andanar. He is head of this office and a former news executive, podcaster, developer, and blogger with over 22 years of experience in broadcasting. He was a senior fellow at the Kennedy School of Government in Harvard University and attended the executive program at Georgetown University, Northern Illinois University, and the National University of Singapore. He earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Social and Political Studies and Film and Media Studies at the Federation University of Australia, and his master's degree in entrepreneurship with honors from the Asian Institute of Management. Please welcome Secretary Martin Andanar.
Thank you, Rick. Ni hao ma, good morning. The members of the panel are Secretary Carlos G. Dominguez III, Dr. Ernesto Pernia, Secretary Benjamin Jokno, Secretary Mark Villar. Secretary Mark Villar is the Secretary of Public Works and Highways. He represented the Lone District of Las Piñas City for 2 terms in Congress, where he authored a total of 109 bills and 44 resolutions. He also served as chairman of the Committee on Trade and Industry and vice chairman of the Committees on Overseas Workers' Affairs and on Science and Technology. He earned his bachelor's degree in political science, philosophy, and economics from the University of Pennsylvania and his MBA from the University of Chicago. Secretary Arthur P. Tugade. Secretary Tugade is the Secretary of Transportation, a self-made billionaire. He founded the Perry's Group of Companies and later served as President and CEO of Clark Development Corporation. He was a scholar of San Beda College since elementary, where he earned his bachelor's degree in liberal arts, magna cum laude, and his law degree, cum laude. By the end of his term at the department, he hopes to leave a 30-year roadmap to address traffic congestion and create a consolidated nationwide transportation system. Mr. Vivencio B. Dizon. Chairman Dizon is president and the CEO of the Basis Conversion Development Authority, as well as acting chairman of Clark Development Corporation. He was an assistant professor of economics at De La Salle University. He earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and Bachelor of Science degree in commerce, majoring in management of financing institutions from the De La Salle University. As a Chevening scholar, he obtained his Master of Science degree in Applied Development Studies from the University of Reading in the United Kingdom. Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Secretary Ramon Lopez. Secretary Lopez was a top executive of major company for over 23 years. He heads the entrepreneurship advocacy Go Negocio. Also topped the master's degree in economics at Williams College and AB Economics at the University of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the panel. We also have the Minister, the Secretary of the Department of Labor and Employment, Secretary Bellio. Secretary Silvestre Bellio is probably the longest serving minister in the Philippines. He served more than 3 presidents. He was the Secretary of Justice in the Philippines. He was also once a member of the Philippine House of Representatives. And now Secretary Bellio is the Secretary for the Department of Labor and Employment. So that only means that without labor, we cannot have a build. Now we will show you a comprehensive video on the Build project of the Republic of the Philippines.
All the best masterpieces start from one line, and a single line begins with a dot. Here in the Philippines, already seems a tough task.
If we can repeat the video. We lost the sound.
fastest infrastructure development ever. Golden age of infrastructure, which we call Build, Build, Build. This is the vision that will help us achieve our goals. And today, we put this vision into action. All the best masterpieces start from one line, and the single line begins with a dot. Here in the Philippines, finding and connecting the dots that may lead to our masterpiece already seems a tough task. Too many needs, and they all seem too big to fill. But will we let any of these stop us? The good news is, the government does not stop at anything. This is why DBWH, DBM, DOF, NEDA, DOR, and BCDA are all working together for the first time in history. 6 agencies committed to deliver the boldest and most ambitious infrastructure development ever. 6 agencies ushering in the golden age of infrastructure, which we call Build, Build, Build. This is the vision that will help us achieve our goals. And today, we put this vision into action. With the NLX SLX connector, you can go from Alabang to Balintawak in only 30 minutes. No need to pass through EDS anymore, so you can use your time for more important things. NLX will also get an all-elevated expressway in Harbor Link, providing a 10-minute access from Mindanao Avenue to Commonwealth Avenue. We are also building a tide embankment project in Leyte, Visayas, which will protect communities in coastal areas against destructive storm surges. No successful country is without an efficient public transport system. So we are extending our trains with PNR North that goes to Clark, and PNR South, which will connect Manila to Los Baños. Explore Davao, Surigao, and Cagayan de Oro without the hassle via the Mindanao Railway. The upcoming Mega Manila subway will also help decongest the roads. For Phase 1, we are connecting Quezon City and Taguig, with more still coming down the road. With the BGC to NAIA bus rapid transit system, you can go from Fort Bonifacio to NAIA in only 20 minutes. We are also expanding the Clark International Airport with new first-class facilities. And the smartest and greenest city in the Philippines is also rising in Clark, which we call the New Clark City, a world-class urban development that will solve Metro Manila's congestion problems. These are but a few of the projects that will blaze a new trail for us, with more coming in the next months and few years. Build for progress, because change only starts through action. Build for tomorrow, because our children deserve a better Philippines. Build with us, and be a guardian of transparency through the Build, Build, Build portal. Visit www.build.gov.ph and stay in the know about all of our game-changing projects. Together, let us build the Philippines.
The Secretary of Trade and Industry, Mon Lopez, will give us a rundown about the infrastructure support for trade and investment.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Philippine Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, I'd like to talk about the importance of infrastructure under the DuterteNomics in deepening and widening our trade and investment programs. It is well recognized that the presence of extensive and efficient infrastructure facilitates trade. It serves to open up access to new markets while minimizing trading and logistics costs. In our country, where development is proceeding unevenly across an archipelagic landscape, infrastructure promises to bring up even the remotest and poorest communities It will also decongest the capital city of Metro Manila and encourage other primary and secondary growth centers. It will spread the gains of growth throughout the country and help address inequality. This is why DTI is working closely with the Transportation Department and all the infrastructure agencies. For example, on our joint roll-on, roll-off program, we want to focus to their road building plans also on the roll-in program with the DPWH on areas that we have identified as high growth potential. Infrastructure is also essential if you want to bring in more foreign investment. That is the other hat that I wear. Right now, the Philippines is lagging behind its ASEAN neighbors in attracting foreign direct investment. With good quality infrastructure, we can minimize the need to grant fiscal incentives to investors that can be costly over the long term. Thirdly, infrastructure across national borders promotes closer trade and industry integration, especially within ASEAN. The other week, President Widodo of Indonesia joined our President Duterte in inaugurating the regular RoRo, or the ferry service, the roll-on, roll-off, between our cities of Davao, Jensan, and Bitung of Indonesia. That cuts the number of transport days from 5 weeks to 1.5 days. And it cuts the cost by 70%. This landmark service will deepen our trading links, not just with Indonesia, but eventually within the ASEAN neighbors. Through regional infrastructure projects like China's One Belt, One Road initiative, we will also draw closer to the rest of the Asia, Pacific, and points farther up. DTI supervises also the Philippine construction industry, which will play such a vital role in our plans to build, build, build. And we are also pushing e-commerce as the digital equivalent of our physical transport infrastructure. I join my fellow cabinet members in inviting you to take a closer look at where the Philippines is going and how you can jump on board and help bring prosperity for all. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you so much, Secretary Mark Lopez. Now we begin our panel discussion. Secretary Mark Villar will be explaining the video that will be here. Some projects at the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, good morning. It's my pleasure to present an overview of the projects in DPWH under the President's vision of the Build, Build, Build and the golden age of infrastructure. Just to give you an idea of the scale of the projects of this administration, in the DPWH, we are budgeted to spend $8.5 billion this year alone. Now, in 2011, with this, the previous administration spent 1.8% of their GDP. This year, we're spending 5.3% of our GDP for infrastructure. Now, to give you an idea of the scale of this, if you were to combine together 4 years of infrastructure spending in the DPWH of the previous administration, it would still be less than what we're spending today for infrastructure in the DPWH. So these are the absolute amounts. You can see the scope, the scale of the vision of our president. At the same time, I'd just like to give you an idea of some of the ambitious projects that we have lined up. To begin with, we have what we call the Luzon Spine Network. It's a series of 18 high-speed highways that will serve to connect the northernmost part of the Philippines to the southernmost part of the Philippines. In the middle of this network is Metro Manila. Now, if you were to go, just to give you an idea, if you were to go from the southernmost part of Metro Manila to Metro Manila, it would take you 12 hours. When this network is finished, you'll be able to go from the southernmost part to the northernmost part, beyond Metro Manila, in less than 12 hours. So this is one of the most ambitious programs that the President has, and it's currently under process. So And part of this, you can see the harbor link. These are some of the projects that are included in the Luzon Spine Network. Another project that we are doing with the help, of course, of our friends from China. I'd also like to, something that's unprecedented, and which I'd like to thank the Chinese government for giving us help on this, is our Inter-Island Bridge program. Well, let me go first here to this bridge program, the Metro Manila Bridge program, which the Chinese government has given us a grant for $70 million to build the first two bridges, the first two out of the first 2 bridges that will serve to decongest, significantly decongest our capital, which is Metro Manila. We are slated to begin construction this year. And aside from these local bridges, we also have the largest inter-island bridge program in the history of our country. Now to date, the longest bridge we've ever built was done many decades ago, was only 2 kilometers. The bridge that we're scheduled to build now, which is the feasibility study is being undertaken with the help of the Chinese government, is 19 kilometers long, connecting the island of Panay to the island of Negros, an inter-island bridge. And that's why I'd like to also give my thanks to the government, which is doing the feasibility study via China's grant. So that's another example of how our partnership with China is bearing fruit. Aside from that, we also have the Davao City Expressway. That is also a major project. It's 20 billion, about 20 billion pesos, the Davao City Expressway, which is done also with a feasibility study funded by China. And of course, our Mindanao Basin project also is a major project. It's almost 40 billion peso project designed to alleviate flooding in the island of Mindanao, also being done with the help of the Chinese government, who is funding our feasibility study for that project. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I'd just like to say that on behalf of the President, to all those who would like to invest in the Philippines, rest assured, and we are all dedicated to this, is that you can expect an environment that is corruption-free. The President has repeatedly said this. He's guaranteeing this to all investors who want to put money, especially in an infrastructure program, that you just have to go through the regular process. There will be no corruption. If anyone in government should ask you, or if you feel that you're being given a hard time, please, you have an open line to any of us here in the economic team and even to the President himself. So again, this is our infrastructure program for the highlights of our infrastructure program. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you very much.
I've been sitting down. Can I stand up? To all of you, good morning. You know, the Philippines is an archipelago. Being an archipelago consists of many islands, more than 9,000 islands. The Philippines also, like many of the developing countries, if not developed countries, is experiencing transportation and traffic situation. It is also experiencing the congestion issue. Given these two realities, it is now imperative that we take a closer look at mobility and connectivity, because it has been established beyond doubt and beyond question that it is connectivity and mobility that serves as the fundamental framework for any development or development program. Having said this, let me walk you through certain projects by the Department of Transportation that spells connectivity and mobility to address the issue of transportation and the congestion and to yield net results of lower logistics costs, lower food costs, and lower goods distribution. Transportation has 4 generic phases. Number 1 is the maritime, number 2 is the airport, number 3 is the railroad, and more importantly, the road. As exemplified earlier and narrated by Secretary Villar, he handled the road and bridges. Later on, I will tell you the components that will be operating and operational on these road and bridges. Let us go to the issue of railways. Consider, ladies and gentlemen, that at present, the railway system in the Philippines is barely 70 kilometers. 70 kilometers after so many decades of wanting to put a railway system. the Duterte administration and before it ends in 2022, it is hoped that the railway system in the Philippines will at least be 2,000 kilometers. But the railway system will not just be limited to Metro Manila, it expands to the entire gamut of islands in the archipelago. And so you will see, therefore, expanded railway system in the southern Bicol, expanded and initiated railway system in Visayas and Mindanao. Although over time, you will see that the Philippines will have a territorial railway system that can afford, enhance, and increase ridership, improving mobility. Let me tell you something. In addition, and to complement this railway system, the Philippines under the Duterte administration will be doing and constructing the first subway station ever in the country, consisting of at least between 23 to 25 kilometers. This is a bold, heavy, and ambitious project, but this administration is willing to take it because it is willing to set and enhance the platform of development. Having said this, it will also have a connectivity in central Luzon. This railway system, by the way, I hope to say it now, is patterned on interoperability. So that if you put railway system and subway system, and you put airports and maritime network all over, it is hoped that this system of transportation will be interoperable. And again, that's enhancing mobility and connectivity. Let us go to MRT, LRT. We have MRTs and LRTs. During the term of President Duterte, it is hoped that this will all be improved, enhanced, and elongated. So you will see that we have a railway system that is expanded. In addition to the railway system, of course, is the airport. Beyond doubt and beyond question, airport has connectivity and enhances mobility. The airport development in our country consists of 3 phases. Number 1, the development of existing airport, improving by way of structure, improving by way of equipment, improving by way of processes, improving by way of time and motion, in order that we enhance mobility and safety. Having said this, the 2 major airports, which is Naiya and Clark, will have to be improved and developed. Radar system, improvements, time and motion, everything will be put down. As we will develop Metro Manila, we will also be developing the provinces in the airport. Include the development in Cebu, the development in Davao, Bacolod, Iloilo, Laguintina. All these things will have to be done. And so you have the train and you have the airports. In addition to this is maritime. Remember I told you earlier the Philippines is a group of islands, and therefore the mobility will have to be addressing the issue of islands. Note, and I will tell you one magic. One project of the Department of Transportation is the RORO. It is a component of what we call the national highway, now connecting Davao and Bitung in Indonesia and Cagayan de Oro in Davao. Whereas before, it took 4 to 5 weeks to traverse this area, it now takes 2 to 3 days. That is magic. And the Duterte administration likes to play magic as it takes bold and audacious projects. As we talk, and because of that experience, already the Department of Transportation of Malaysia is talking with the Department of Transportation of the Philippines to pattern and replicate the RORO Nautical Navigation Highway existing between Indonesia and the Philippines. As hope we can replicate Palawan and Malaysia. And so you can see that connectivity is not only from within, but also from without. You can see that we have covered the entire gamut. We'll be doing MRTs, LRTs, all these things to complement what the Secretary of Transportation is putting up by way of roads and bridges. Come visit us. Let's do magic together. Good morning.
The next speaker is Chairman Vince Dizon of the BCDA. Chairman Vince Dizon will give us a lowdown on the projects that they have at New Clark City, etc.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Before I go into the projects, I'd just like to give you a background of what the Basis Conversion and Development Authority is. As the name implies, it is the state-owned enterprise that is in charge of converting and developing former military land. Now, as we see all over the world, it is the military owns vast and very prime tracts of land, and in the Philippines it's the same. And the BCDA was created in order to develop these areas into centers of economic growth and progress. Among our success stories in BCDA is the development of a huge former military facility in the heart of Metro Manila, which we call Fort Bonifacio. Now Fort Bonifacio is the premier business and financial district of the Philippines. In August of this year, the Philippine Stock Exchange will be moving to Bonifacio from the city of, from the other premier financial city. And as you can see, and I just want to show the slide now, we are now in the process of building further improving the connectivity, transportation infrastructure in this former military base. And this will be done through the Fort Bonifacio or the Bonifacio Global City to NAIA International Airport bus rapid transit system. So we will be starting the project by the end of this year, and hopefully it will be completed by 2021. So this is a key project for us in one of our very important areas in the country. The second part of BCDA is the development of areas outside of Metro Manila. And the major development that is happening right now is in Clark Air Base, what used to be the US military air base called Clark. This is about 80 kilometers away from Metro Manila, 80 kilometers north of Metro Manila, and it is now considered one of the most thriving economic growth areas in the entire country. And in order to further improve the potential of Clark as a major economic and logistics area, we will be building a train that connects two former US military bases. The Subic Naval Base, which is now a free port, and the Clark International Airport. And we will be building these, sorry, can we go back to the Clark, Subic Clark Railway? We will be building a 75-kilometer railway, primarily cargo, to connect the port of Subic to the airport of Clark in order to more efficiently and more quickly move goods from the port of Subic and the airport of Clark and vice versa. So hopefully we will begin this project also at the end of 2017 to be completed by 2020. Also in Clark is, and as already mentioned earlier by our Minister for Transportation, we want to further improve the Clark International Airport as one of our major gateways to and from the Philippines. And we plan to do this year as well. As Secretary Jokno and Secretary Berna and Secretary Dominguez said, we want to do things swiftly and we want to do things on time. So we will be starting the development of the Clark International Airport into a major international hub, initially with a capacity of 8 million passengers per year, by the end of 2017 to be completed by the beginning of 2020. Finally, our major development in Clark to help ease the congestion of Metro Manila is New Clark City. It is an area that's actually the area there with our road construction ongoing, but we want to convert it into not only the premier city in the Philippines, but hopefully to be at par with the premier world-class cities throughout the region and the world. This is a huge development initiative. It is 9,500 hectares. It is practically it is practically a fifth of Metro Manila. No, it is a fifth of Metro Manila in size. And we want to develop it as a premier, smart, green city master plan by the best in the world. So this is the future rendering of New Clark City. Hopefully, it will look like that in the next 10, 20 years. But we will be developing the first phase covering about 250 hectares by the year 2022. So again, I echo the call of our senior ministers of our government and of our president for please help us build, and please help us build magically, as Minister Tugate said, in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vince. With the humongous amount of investment that we have for build, and DuterteNomics, we definitely need transparency for the confidence of our businessmen and our investors. We'll talk about transparency. Spokesperson Abelli.
Several words have been used, one of which is the audacity, the other was magic, and third is transparency. By the end of 6 years, a total of 160 billion US dollars would have been spent for 8 trillion pesos. For that, you need some sort of assurance that it will be well spent and will go into whatever purpose it was meant to be. To ensure speedy and transparent implementation of infrastructure projects, we will harness and not only closely monitor every stage of each project. We will also harness the public, the media, and the business community in keeping watch on projects and alerting us on any problems and issues. This will be done through the Build portal, where key information status updates on major projects are posted. In the meantime, the website www.build.gov.ph has been put up since March, and we invite you to check the progress of the DuterteNomics infrastructure. Each project page includes project parameters, budgeted cost, and financing arrangements, implementing agency and other involved entities, bidding information and status, and the progress of construction and operations. President Rodrigo Duterte wants to ensure projects move for the benefit of the nation and that there are no anomalies in implementation, and there is no better way to do this than to get the nation and the media watching how public money is being spent for national progress, jobs, and a better life for our people. Please check it out.
And now we get into the most exciting part of the program, and that is the question and answer portion. May we invite the media. If you have any questions, please raise your questions and just identify yourself. We have some members from the China Radio International. We also have from the Xinhua News Agency, of the CCTV. Yes, the gentleman over here in front. I believe from the China Post.
Good morning. from People's Daily. Okay. My question is about how to connect China's Belt and Road Initiative to the DuterteNomics. How to connect the
So the question is how to connect the Belt and Road Initiative in China to the DuterteNomics.
Thank you. The Belt and Road Initiative of President Xi Jinping and China is really an initiative for connectivity, for bringing people together, for bringing communities in inclusive growth. The commitments of China to fund some of our projects, I believe is really a part of this Belt and Road initiative of President Xi Jinping.
Magandang umaga po. Good morning to everybody. Magandang umaga po sa lahat ng ating mga kalihim. Si Rio Zablan po from China Radio International Filipino Service. Sir, napakarami po nung magsasalita muna ako sa Tagalog and then I'll translate in English for our friends. Napakarami po nung ating nabanggit na mga major na proyekto, build ng mga infra projects. We've mentioned so many infra projects. Sir, kahit sino po pwedeng sumagot, pwede pong paki-enumerate ulit yung mga major infra projects at ilan po rito yung mga konektado o yung kung saan tumulong ang China. At pangalawa, ano po ang significance? What is the significance of our build infra projects to One Belt and One Road initiative of China? Thank you very much.
Okay, let me just answer in English because more than half of the audience cannot understand Filipino. Basically, the question is asking us to specify specific projects, okay, that can address the issue on build. In the interest of time, our presentation earlier was very generic, but that question is most welcome. Let me talk insofar as transportation is concerned. Is specific on railroad. Number one is the railroad that connects to Tuban and Clark to Calamba. The travel time in this area is more than 2 hours if you are lucky. That's why I said if you are lucky. If we are able to do this, and believe me, we will do this, travel time will be less than an hour. It's specific on railroad. We will be connecting to Tuban, to Calamba, and then go to Bicol. More or less 700 kilometers. On railroad is specific. Visayas, the first phase consisting of less than 900 kilometers. Cagayan de Oro, Davao, and one area which escapes me now, Digos. Okay? The total Mindanao Express consists of 2,000 kilometers. All the projects will have to be done as mandated by our President within the term of the President. Having said this, the first phase of the Mindanao Express, consisting of around 700 kilometers, will be finished during his term. On the airport, we mentioned about the improvements at Naiya. We mentioned about the improvements in Clark. Hopefully, the completion of the terminals in Clark, as mentioned by President Vince, will be initiated at the latest on the second quarter of next year. That is at the latest. Hopefully for completion in a period of 2.5 years. Is specific on the subway. That will consist of 23 to 25 kilometers, doing a connectivity between FTI North Avenue in Quezon City. We are negotiating right now and we are pushing JICA to finish this project in 4 years. They are asking for 5 years. I said, we can do a compromise. You can finish on 5 years, but do me a design that will enable us to use stations in the subway usability as the stations are completed. We are looking on that now. To put reality on the specifics, which the gentleman wanted to be clarified on, this subway project, the loan agreement is targeted for completion in November, for signing by President Duterte and Prime Minister Abe in November, so that it puts a reality to the feasibility study on that subway, which is about almost to be completed. Yung bridges, iwan ko sa iyo, boss, ha? Yung maritime, Roro was mentioned. Connecting Davao and Indonesia. This was inaugurated 3 weeks back, if I'm not sure, I think 3 weeks back, 2 weeks back. This was a project which has long been pending between two departments, the Department of Transportation of the Philippines and the Department of Transportation of Indonesia. Matagal lang pinag-uusapan yan, and then we were able to finalize it on that only 3 weeks. We are also looking right now serious discussions between Malaysia and the Philippines to replicate that. There will be developments of port like Sasa Port in Davao. Developments in port that has the population density, that has tourism potential, and that requires cargo movement, ports will be there. The ports will be complicated, naturally, by maritime equipments and maritime vessels. Roll on, roll off. These are the vessels that will spell the connectivity. There are other specific projects in road, and I think the better person to say that will naturally be the Secretary of Public Works. May I pass the microphone to the Secretary?
Thank you. And thank you for that question. Of course, given the scale and the number of projects, if I were to enumerate every single project or every major project, we might be here for a while. But let me try and very briefly give you an idea. Like what I mentioned earlier when I said it was on spine. It includes a series of either a combination of PPPs and private. Maybe to our Chinese friends, you might not be so familiar, but let me just say from the northern point, we have what we call the Tipilex, which is a PPP project, and then which connects to the Northern Luzon Expressway. And then after the Northern Luzon Expressway, it will bypass Metro Manila via the NLEX-SX connector and the Skyway extension. And after that, it will go to the Skyway, the South Luzon Expressway. After the South Luzon Expressway, it will hit the Star, which is in Batangas. After that, it will hit the what we call the DR4, which goes to one of our southern provinces, which is Quezon. And after that, it will go to the Quezon-Bicol Expressway, which will take it finally to the southernmost province, which is Bicol of the Philippines. That is the extent. And aside from that, there will be a parallel, what we call the Northern Luzon East Expressway, to create another corridor of growth. Now, it's worthy, all these projects, like I said, 18 projects, all designed to create new growth corridors, to bring progress to every corner of the Philippines. Aside from that, we have our toll bridges across EDSA, which I mentioned earlier, toll bridges across Pasig, which I mentioned earlier. 2 of them are donated by the government, by the Chinese government, which we're very thankful for, with a value of approximately $70 million. Now, as we know, in Metro Manila, we have a very large traffic problem. We believe these toll bridges will be a significant solution, in addition to what I mentioned earlier, the bypass roads. We have a lot of, what I mentioned, the Mindanao Flood Basin project. That's a 40 billion peso project. The Mindanao Road Network project, more than 80 billion pesos worth of new roads designed to improve connectivity in the island of Mindanao. And we have the Metro Cebu Expressway, That's also a 50 billion peso project designed to decongest the second largest city in the Philippines, which is Cebu. We have other projects, like I said, the latent time embankment to prevent recurrence of what happened in Yolanda, what happened to Yolanda in the past. There are many more, and in fact, I think the best thing to do is you can look at the Build website, and you can see a list of all the projects for both the DOTR and the DPWH. And they give you a complete amount of information, from timeline, to the proponents, to the effects of the project. It's accessible to everyone, all our friends and all our friends in media. Please look at the Build website, and you can see a complete list of all our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. The DuterteNomics is it's an amalgamation of the 10-point socioeconomic program of the government. And the challenges that we've had the past administration was really inclusivity, economic inclusivity. It's how to trickle down the growth of the economy down to the class D and E. So the question maybe should be answered by the Department of Labor and Employment. What is the impact of the DuterteNomics? What is the impact of the billions of dollars of investment to our labor market?
Thank you, Seth Martin, fellow workers in government, friends in the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. After listening to my co-workers, they picture a golden age of infrastructure, which to the Department of Labor is golden age for employment. They mention golden age for build. To the Department of Labor, that means golden age of jobs, and jobs. Thank you, my dear co-workers. With your 164 billion infrastructure project for the next 5 years, we are talking of not less than 12 million jobs for our countrymen. This will address not only the problem of unemployment, but this will also address the final goal of our President, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, in repatriating our OFWs who are now in different parts of our country, knowing the social other countries, knowing the social implications of our Filipino workers going out of our country to look for jobs. The President wants to provide jobs with decent pay so that eventually all our Filipino workers will come back to our country. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, Secretary Bello. Another question from one of the most respected Filipino journalists here in Beijing, Jaime Flor Cruz.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose we are all curious as to how this DuterteNomics intersect with OBOR and the China market. Earlier, I heard that we are shifting from consumption to investment model, whereas the Chinese, I think, are going the opposite way. You know? They're moving from investment-driven to consumption-driven. So I wonder if any of you could address how we intersect on that issue. And my second question is, there have been concerns raised as to whether we are, if we absorb so much debt or loans, whether we will be in danger of being trapped in this a debt-ridden economy. So maybe
let me answer the second question first. As I said, despite the 3% deficit to GDP ratio that we are planning to pursue, our debt to GDP ratio will continue to go down. Right now, it's around 40%. It will go down to around 35%. And that's the envy of many developed countries. Okay? I think Japan, the debt to GDP ratio of Japan is 250%. Our debt to GDP ratio right now is around 40%. Okay? Because we plan to outgrow our debt. Our GDP will grow much faster than our foreign debt. as I said, because we plan to borrow money domestically, basically. The ratio is 80-20. 80 domestic, 20% foreign. Now on the first part, I think it complements. I think China has opened up because of the improving relationship between China and the Philippines. China will open up imports. They will import a lot from the Philippines. In fact, they have a purchase order of close to $2 billion. They will open up tourism and, of course, the financing. They have committed to finance many of our infrastructure projects. And that will, of course, be mutually beneficial to both parties.
I can probably add, we are expanding and enhancing our regional airports, meaning airports in the provinces, meaning that there can be direct flights from China to the Philippines, to the regions, so that, as I understand, tourists' application for tourist visas in China have more than tripled over the past 3 months, and therefore, if they want to go to the Philippines and they want to bypass China, they could go directly to Davao, to Bohol, to Iloilo, Cagayan de Oro, or northern Luzon. So that's the other connection between the development in China and the connectivity improvement in the Philippines.
We have room for one more question.
Hello.
Please identify yourself.
Good morning, sir. I'm Alden Monzon. I'm the Manila reporter for the Japanese news agency Kyodo News. I just have a follow-up question for the loans from China to to Secretary Jokno. Has the Chinese government offered any range on the interest rate for the loans? And also you mentioned that only 20% of the 160 billion budget for infrastructure will be sourced from from foreign funds. So can you give us the interest rate that the Chinese government is offering?
On the second question, as I said, our financing plan is 80% domestic, because there's also a lot of money floating around in the Philippines, and 20% foreign. Okay? On the interest rate, I'll give it to Secretary Dominguez.
Thank you. We are currently in negotiations with all our partners regarding interest rates. But let me tell you, the last time we went into the market for a large loan, it was $2 billion. The spread, the differential between the rate we paid and the rate of the U.S. Treasury bills was only 67 basis points. This is smaller than the rate that was the spread that was achieved last year, even though the interest rate had already gone up in the U.S. So we are very confident that the rates that we will achieve with the ODA funds being offered to us are going to be very, very favorable to the Philippines. Our credit rating has been very high, and it's been maintained at that level. So we are very confident that the rates we will get are very favorable to the Philippines.
Just a follow-up question, sir. Sir, can you confirm that the rate would be somewhere around 5 to 15%?
No, I cannot confirm that. And by the way, that is way out of the ballpark.
I see. Just another follow-up question, sir. Last. Sir, if there's so much money in the local scene, like for example, I think around 600 billion is expected from the tax reform program. So why can't the Philippine government just source funds there instead of accruing debt from foreign lending?
Our program is to have a debt ratio of 80% domestic and 20% foreign. That is the ratio that we are planning to achieve. So you're right, we are going to be borrowing more local currency than foreign currency. Now, you mentioned again the tax reform. The tax reform will be like our capital. You know, when you are in a private sector project, you usually put up your own capital and then you borrow some, right? Diba? So, our capital is our tax, what we raise from taxes. Yun ang capital natin. And obviously, we cannot fund everything just from our capital. So we will have to go to the domestic and the foreign markets to fund the differentials. But again, the plan is 80-20 in favor of domestic borrowings so that we do not incur any foreign exchange risks.
Can we call the head of, Bureau Head of NBC News in Beijing, Mr. Eric Bacolina?
Thank you for the consideration, NBC News. President Duterte has been known to have, at the beginning of his administration, prioritized the campaign on peace and order, drugs, and crime. But now with the Build program and all the government attention, are we seeing a shift of attention and priority from crime campaign to economic build campaign?
May I respond to that? Ever since the president campaigned, he always said he had 3 goals. Okay, the first goal he has is to reduce poverty in the country. From what it is now about 22%, we want to bring it down to 14%. And to do that, we are going to embark primarily on a large-scale infrastructure project. Why is that? These infrastructure projects create jobs and provides income to the people where the projects are going to be at. And these projects are going to be mostly outside of Metro Manila, where the poverty is. So the second goal, the President said, is he wants our country to be more law-abiding. Because if your country is not law-abiding, you cannot progress. You cannot have investors come in. You cannot have people are insecure. And our strategy to make our country more law-abiding is to go after the most egregious violation of the law, and that is the drug trade. Because the drug trade destroys families, destroys the youth, and enters into politics. And the third goal of the President is to achieve peace. First of all, peace within our borders. That's why he has gone very strongly to negotiate with the armed rebels. And our primary negotiator there, of course, is Secretary Benyo. Yeah. And he has been very successful in engaging the NDF in discussions. We also have been negotiating with the separatist Islamic forces. And we have achieved a very big breakthrough with them. They trust the current president, our President Duterte, because he understands the problems they have. He also wants peace with our neighbors. We have contentious issues with some of our neighbors, but we do not want to focus all our attention on those issues, and we don't want those issues to drive our entire relationships. So we want to have peace. Peace with Japan, peace with South Korea, peace with China, and of course peace with the ASEAN. and he is making progress there. So I hope this puts it in context. Thank you.
Just a quick footnote. Actually, it's a 10-point agenda. It's a 0 to 10-point socio-economic agenda. And the zero is the foundation, and that has to do with promoting law and order, reducing criminality, reducing corruption, reducing smuggling. And when the two are, in other words, the 0 and the 10-point socio-economic agenda are interactive. When there is peace and order, law and order, then the economy prospers. And when the economy prospers, then peace and order will be further enhanced. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let me try to wrap this up as quickly as I can, and hopefully as clearly as I can. There's probably 5 important takeaways on the DuterteNomics that we'd like to leave with you today. The first one is the slogan, build, build, build. And we want to make up for the accumulated infrastructure deficit in our country that was aggravated by the slowness of execution under the previous administration. As Secretary Dominguez has pointed out, infrastructure is where they want to start our development, to the tune of $160 billion in public funds over the next 6 years. The second key takeaway is that government is prepared this time to take the lead in infrastructure spending. Secretary Jokbal talked about the hybrid PPP model, which effectively de-risks projects up front and therefore effectively matches the risk profile natural to a project development cycle to the different risk appetites between the public and private sectors. So we intend to do that. The third takeaway is the need for comprehensive tax reform. We need about $3 billion of additional taxes every year. As Secretary Dominguez pointed out, this in effect is the equity that we need to invest in order to be able to borrow against, whether in the form of development assistance or concessional loans, or even in terms of bringing in co-venturers from the private sector through PPP projects. So there's a tax reform bill now that's pending in Congress that aims first to reduce income tax rates so we're competitive with the rest of the region. Second, to compensate for this by raising taxes on selected transactions and commodities, as well as plugging loopholes in our existing sales EVAT system. And thirdly, by distributing the tax burden so it is more fairly distributed in favor of the lower and middle income classes. So that's the third takeaway, is comprehensive tax reform as essential in order to be able to spend on these projects. The fourth is that we are prepared to borrow. We will be using our investment grade credit ratings. We will be taking advantage of the favorable environment for borrowing both locally and in the rest of the world. We intend to borrow mostly at home in our currency, as well as to run budget deficits of up to 3% every year. Nonetheless, we expect that our debt to GDP ratios will go down because of the growth that will be induced by this borrowing and this spending. The last takeaway was mentioned by Secretary Abella, and that's the importance of the online portal, the online access that we're providing so that people can check on these projects and, as Secretary Villa promised, make sure that these projects are corruption-free. The portal will be there in order to ensure delivery as well as honesty. It is the first time, I think, that this kind of access is being offered to the Filipino people, in line again with the government, with the Duterte government's emphasis on transparency. I want to close by trying to give a more complete answer to the earlier questions about how this relates to OBOR, which is the reason why we're here today. The first one was mentioned in the opening remarks by Secretary Abella, where he talked about 2 points of physical connectivity. One is through the maritime route that starts from northern China and will then be able to transship and transit through the hub that we're building out in Subic Clark, from which we intend to connect by rail and roads, both to Clark, Subic to Clark, and then down to Metro Manila. And then the other one is the new roll-off route that we're inaugurating in order to connect to Indonesia from Mindanao. The second way these two projects intersect is because the roll route in effect now deepens the capacity of the BIM-IAGA region, sub-region, to participate in One Belt, One Road as a termination point, as well as extending the connectivity to the Philippines. The third way that the project resonates with us is, of course, the scale of the ambition. OBOR is a very ambitious Pan-Asian regional initiative in the same way that our own DuterteNomics is likewise ambitious in its scale and objectives. Jimmy, you asked about the problem that part problem that the Chinese are shifting from consumption to investment. What's actually happening is that Chinese investment is shifting overseas. And this is where OBOR comes in, obviously to give them high asset returns, okay, to help build the national capacities of the countries traversed by the route in order for them to participate more actively in trade and investment, and of course to generate some diplomatic dividends for China as it seeks its own expanded role on the world stage. So that, I believe, concludes our forum this morning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us to talk about the Theonomics. There's a number of government-to-government memoranda of understanding that will be signed in another venue in this hotel in front of the President. For today, though, we'd like to have the signing of a private exchange of documents, okay, to be witnessed by Secretary Andanar between the Power Construction Corporation of China, to be represented by its Group Chairman, Mr. Yan Ji-Yung, and the Center of Strategy, Enterprise and Intelligence, to be represented by its Managing Director and my colleague, Secretary Rick Saludo, that will have to do basically with promoting public awareness in the Philippines of the projects and plans of our Chinese partner in the Philippines. So can I please call on Chairman Yan to come to the front, and Managing Director,
As I said, as Gary said, this will be an exchange of documents between Power Construction Corporation of China and the Center for Strategy, Enterprise and Intelligence to promote awareness of Power China's projects.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Excuse me, please.